The UFO community is full of charlatans. That's a quote straight from Lue Elizondo in his latest interview on Disclosure Team's podcast. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now, let's jump into this. Now, I'm going to play you a clip of Lue Elizondo that I've broken up into two parts on Disclosure Team's podcast. But before we get to that in his comments, let's take a listen to Tim Burchett, right, in an Ask a Poll exclusive interview talking about Jake Barber, who is this new whistleblower who has come out on News Nation. Everybody's talking about him, right? The egg UFO guy. That's just the best way to sort of correlate here. And his comments about him were quite interesting. And in fact, people were denying that it even happened. I made a video about it before. People were, oh, Tim Burchett never said that. Well, he kind of states that he thinks that Jake Barber may be a plant to steer us off course, right? Sort of a distraction. So Lue Elizondo is going to respond to that and some other things as well. But first, I want you to hear it directly from Tim Burchett's mouth, again, in an Ask a Poll exclusive interview, and then we'll get to Lue Elizondo's comments.
You looked into this Jake Barber guy yet?
If I tell you I don't, and I do, I apologize. There's so many of these guys that are.
He's the new David Grush. You haven't seen it?
I have not, but I don't think I have. What's he whistleblowing about? Just
Similar as Grush, kind of.
There's a.
False.
Is he the guy that's saying that there's a network? There's a recovery unit or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I might have read something on that. And there's just so many of those guys. And you know, honestly, I worry about it being a plant just to steer us off another, down some rabbit hole.
Yeah. Who do you guys want? Have you guys even had a UAP conference meeting yet? Or are you guys focused on budget and everything else?
This budget's just kind of derailed everybody.
Yeah. So no plans yet?
None yet.
For a confab?
I don't think so. There could be.
Yeah. I'll keep my eyes out.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Appreciate it.
I'll get it.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there you go. You heard it straight from Tim Burchett's mouth. Now, he's not saying definitively, but he's thinking that's what it is. And, Eric Burleson, who's another representative, along with Tim Burchett, both of them had not seen this, the Jake Barber interview and everything that's coming out, right? Like, they're just not really aware of it or what's going on. Kind of know a little bit about it, but don't know too much. Again, both of these guys, Tim Burchett and Eric Burleson, are both heavily in the UFO topic. So for them to not be sort of aware of this, again, when Jake Barber is claiming that people are aware of this, I don't know what's going on here, to be honest with you. But it is interesting to hear Tim Burchett make those comments. Now, let's hear from Lue Elizondo about this.
You mentioned Tim Burchett. He actually made a statement in the last couple of days regarding Jake Barber coming forward. And I think he made a statement along the lines of that this Jake Barber may be a plant.
Well, look, we always have to be careful, right? People think that of me even to this day. I'm not, but I think we always have to be careful to make sure that we don't have people come in and try to look. The UAP community or UFO community is fraught with charlatans, and there's people out there that will, lie, beg, and steal their way either for clicks or attention or for money, and we continue to see it. And so as their narrative becomes less and less popular, they become increasingly more and more desperate to push their narrative. And so you have to be careful to make sure that people aren't being set up deliberately just so they lose public trust and confidence. So Burchett is, I think, doing what is prudent, just asking the hard questions. Is it possible that Barber or anybody else, right? David Grush, myself, Chris Mellon, Jay Stratton, who knows? Fill in the blank. Doesn't matter the person's name. People always have to make sure that you vet people properly and that they are legitimately who they say they are, and they've got the vitae to back it up. It's very easy to pull a performance report from somebody who's been in the intelligence community or the national security arena and validate for yourself. Are they who they say they are? I think we also, this is going to sound kind of weird. This is a topic that has really been full of extraordinary claims, and it turns out that many of them are actually real and legit. But you have to make sure that you take every claim with a grain of salt until you are able to validate and verify that claim. And until then, you have to be careful, right? You have to try to remain neutral and objective as much as possible. I don't know Mr. Barber. I do know people who do know him, and those people that are they're impeachable. They are fantastic human beings, and I trust them, and I would trust them with my life if I needed to. But with that said, it doesn't mean that everything that is being said is 100% accurate, right?
All right, so look, those are great points by Lue Elizondo, right? Apparently, we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, right? We shouldn't be afraid to be skeptical. We shouldn't be afraid to vet these people, right? Now, one thing that's always interested in me is something Lue Elizondo said there, which is, we need to find out that these people are who they say they are. Now, I agree with that statement 100%. And it's the first part of looking into someone's claims, right? But I don't think it's the most important part, because great, that's kind of what's used to prop people up and make you believe them. It's, well, they said they are who they say they are, therefore their extraordinary claims are true. See, that's the problem. I mean, I'm not okay. I don't really care if they say who they say they are. I mean, I do care, but I don't care, if you know what I mean. What I care more about is providing evidence and proof for their extraordinary claims. Okay, once we establish they are who they say they are, great. Okay, boom. But that should go to the back burner. Now it should be providing proof and evidence, because the best proof and evidence can't be, well, they say who they say they are and they're credible people and I would trust them with my life and this, that, and the other, and all these other things. None of that proves extraordinary claims. And that is all fine. That gets you a seat at the table. But, proving you are who you say you are. Okay. But that doesn't prove any extraordinary claims at all. And that's always the problem in this topic, is proving the extraordinary claims, not proving if somebody is who they say they are. Right? Again, I'm not saying that's not important. It is, but I don't really care about that. Once we've established that, great. What about the claims? Those are the big things. And it can't always just fall back on, well, they're credible people. Why would they lie? They are who they say they are. That can't be, the standard of evidence, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion. You make up your own mind. Let's hear from Lue Elizondo a little bit more about Jake Barber.
I believe, I said this before, Jake Barber, I believe, is telling his truth, just as I am telling my truth. But there's a difference between universal truths and personal truths. And we've talked about that, right? Where a universal truth may be something like gravity, right? Where it's kind of undeniable, or the fact that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west because of the rotation of the earth. Then you have personal truths, whether that's religious affiliation or political allegiances, and things that may feel like a universal truth, but in reality are only a universal truth for a particular group of people or an individual. And so that's where things get a little bit more murky, because then we're starting to rely on human subjectivity and human bias. And that's something that is very, very hard. That's why in the scientific community, you always want to have, when you're doing experiments, you want to have a control experiment, because that establishes, without human interference, your baseline. And there have been experiments just by human beings thinking about something, believe it or not, in quantum physics, can potentially dictate or drive an outcome to an experiment. So we have to be very careful. We have to be careful, because the human element is also fallible. The human element is, we have this fantastic, incredible machine that can hear and taste and smell and feel and all these things in this little organic package. And for the most part, it does a really, really good job of assessing and analyzing its environment. But, there are things that can, if you will, trip up the human machine. Optical illusions are a perfect example. How the way we interpret information can differ between two individuals looking at the exact same thing. And so we always have to be mindful of that. And, again, I don't speak on behalf of Mr. Barber, just like he doesn't speak on my behalf. I'm very thankful that he came out and said what he felt he needed to say. I think it helps the situation. This is a very complex topic we've been dealing with now for some time, and you know what? It may turn out there might be aspects to this topic that are going to be disturbing for some people.
Now, Lue Elizondo makes a great point about universal truths versus personal truths. And I think that is a crux in the UFO community and just discussing this phenomena as a whole, because you'll have someone say, I had an experience and it's real, right? But it's only real to them, right? And then we have to trust their perception of the experience being truthful, right? And sometimes people just get it wrong, not because they intentionally get it wrong. They just perceive things wrong. It's their interpretation, right? It might not be what we all perceive if we experience that same event, right? And that is a big issue, is trying to prove something you believe to be a personal truth to the rest of the world, right? Because you can't do an experiment, you have no evidence, it's just becomes stories, right? Now, with Jake Barber, he has made the most, I guess, what's the best way to say that? Like, the claims he is saying, have happened and will happen. More importantly, what will happen are the biggest claims I've heard in the UFO community ever, right? He's claiming in the next 12 months to bring UFO disclosure. I mean, it's going to happen, and he's going to bring it in conjunction and with help with the American government, right? He's going to bring disclosure on a global scale, right? Where we will no longer wonder if we are alone. We will know for sure. And he's claiming to be able to bring that in the next 12 months, right? Through a series of experiments and evidence and proof, right? Through, the psionic stuff where they can control craft and bring them down and communicate with non-human intelligence, right? I mean, they're talking about German kids who do telekinesis and, levitate things, right? Move things with their mind. There's a lot of claims out there made, right? There are people, part of Jake Barber's team, the Skywatcher team, who claim they can connect with the ET craft anytime they want, right? And these are big claims. These are very big claims, and a lot of people are getting behind it. But some people are a little skeptical, which they should be. But look, at the end of the day, I'm open-minded. I'll wait and see if this all comes to fruition, right? Someone's saying they're going to do something. Great. I'll wait and see if they do it. It's that simple, right? I'll hold my judgment until that moment comes. And if Jake Barber's right and him and his team do bring disclosure, I will be front row and center, happy, cheering, at that concert. Whoever's playing that concert, you know what I mean? Let's go. We're celebrating, But if it doesn't happen, what happens, right? If those claims and those promises don't come true, what price is there to pay, right? Because if you're going to live off the credit of these promises, right, and get the notoriety and whatever that comes with it, but then don't deliver, what happens, right? If we will all be behind Jake Barber and his team, supporting them if they deliver on these promises, what should be the price if he can't deliver on those promises, right? So, I don't know. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I'll put a link in the description. Go check out this interview with Lue Elizondo. Disclosure Team is a great interview. That guy, Vinny, I believe is his name, that runs that, asks a lot of really great questions. I like that guy. And again, I'll put a link in the description to the Ask-a-Pole interview with Tim Burchett, so you can check that out for yourself. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.